Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another LinkedIn Live today. I'm Dr. Laura Sicola with Vocal Impact Productions, and we have a lot to talk about today because the world is well, the world. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of people who are wrestling really on both sides of the employment equation, so to speak. And there's just a lot of other stuff going on personally, professionally. And with that sense of uncertainty that so many people are feeling on different levels, from business owners to employees to college students to sort of everybody else, we're going to have a special conversation today. And it's all about how to instill confidence in uncertain times. And the notion, I think it's important to look at the idea of instilling confidence, meaning helping others to feel it. And we're going to look at a variety of elements that go into that cocktail. But first, I want to invite everybody anybody who's here, who's joining us today, to please answer, or excuse me, drop in the chat any notes that you have for me. Let me know where you're coming in from, what kind of work you're doing, and really, most importantly, any questions that you have. What's your motivation for joining today? Why did you choose to, of all the things that you could be doing right now, you're here in this conversation? Because the better I understand what you're looking for and what kind of guidance I can provide, the better I can do to really make sure that we are hitting the nail on the head and providing the greatest amount of value to you and to your people, to your audience as possible. Remember, when I use the word audience, I don't mean that you're on a stage. I mean, you could be, or that you're necessarily on camera like we are right now. It's really more about whoever you're talking to, whoever, whether it's a one-on-one, whether you are creating doing a virtual meeting for your employees, for your partners, for your stakeholders of sorts, or if it's asynchronously, maybe you're making a video that you want to post here on LinkedIn or on any other platform. You're going to make a podcast video. You have a message that you want to share with anyone, personal or professional. It can also be your family, your significant other, your spouse, your roommates, your kids. Where is there uncertainty? Where is someone feeling anxious, someone feeling unsettled, and you need to help them feel a sense of calm, feel maybe even inspiration, most importantly, hope, security. Certainly with investors, you want your investors to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel in control. Anybody who claims that they're not a control freak, yeah, in these kinds of situations, we all want a sense of control. So drop me a note in the chat. And I see lots of people participating. That's great. So people from Boston, people from Philadelphia, people from New Mexico. This is awesome. We're getting already a super geographically diverse range of people chiming on in. That's terrific. New Jersey in the house. So let's see. You're going to take a little bit of a look as far as what people are looking for here. Guadalajara, Mexico. Woo, okay, officially you're the winner so far for today. We'll see who else jumps on. So thank you for joining. Yeah, people are definitely experiencing uncertain times today, and serving clients who are poorly led. That's an interesting phrase. I'd be curious to know when you think about a client being led poorly, what does that mean to you? And I'm not just asking the person who posted the question, but I'm sharing this question with everybody out there who's listening, whether you're listening right now in real time or you're listening to the replay later on, to the podcast. Ask yourself, who do you know who is just not being served well, who's not being led effectively? What does poorly led mean? And what does led well mean? What would that look like? So if leadership is leading towards uncertainty, toward anxiety, how you can help. And of course, that is naturally going to be role dependent, but regardless of what your role is and your relationship with whoever that person or group happens to be, you still have a role to play. You still can have an impact, can have an effect. I mean, really, what is influence? We talk all the time, speaking to influence. Influence, very simply, is having an effect on someone or something. So my question for you is, what effect do you want to have on that audience, given the context, given the anxieties of the times, giving the questions, the challenges, the uncertainties that's going on. What impact, what effect do you want to have? What influence do you want to have? And then we'll start looking at how to get there. And I'll, of course, be checking the chat as we go. So please do feel free to continue to drop me messages, to ask questions, and even to comment on each other's. Anybody who's attended one of my virtual workshops, I'm all about having people chat with each other as we go, because to see what is relevant to you, what inspires you, what resonates, I'm very happy to continue to go in that direction, because it's me. It's all about providing value. I want to make sure I know what's on your heart, what's on your mind, what's your greatest concern, so we can answer that. Let's see. A sense of belonging is a thing that you have to consider. Yes, yes. How do you help people feel like they belong? So, in this unprecedented economy that we have, with inflation, with layoffs, I mean, gosh, when we look at things like the fact that Amazon recently announced a five-digit reduction in force. Goldman Sachs just laid off a few thousand people and have recommitted to letting go of another 5% of their workforce every year. So this is something people are perpetually on notice for. Salesforce has let people go. I think Apple, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and then industries that typically never let people go, law firms, restaurants, McDonald's is letting people go. I mean, that's unheard of. So it's universal. We're all in this together, for better, for worse. So let's dive in a little bit to get a sense of what we can do to help to inspire that sense of confidence in others. And we talk about instilling confidence. I'm going to also use the word inspiring. And I'm a linguist, so you got to let me geek out a little bit here and there with some etymology, some word history. But if you ever thought about it, the word inspire, to inspire confidence, comes from the same root as, well, it's from the Latin inspirare, which literally translates to breathing life into, or breathing spirit into something. So if you're inspiring confidence, you're breathing life into the other person. You're giving them your confidence and trying to help them feel that sense of calm, security, trust, peace. And on the flip side, reducing the anxiety, reducing the fear, reducing the worry. Yes, I think it's a great way to put it. Even though there is uncertainty, someone in the chat just put aspiring to stabilize the work at the business, to add a sense of stability. These are all great ways to put it. The so in order to really be successful in this area and inspiring confidence in others and instilling or ingraining a sense of confidence in others, it requires a few fundamental things first. First and foremost, we have to start with the end in mind. And we don't tend to do this as as crystallized as we should. So if you've ever had a chance to read my book, Speaking to Influence, you may have seen that at the beginning of each chapter, I start with a little quote from Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, or Through the Looking Glass. And one of the most popularly quoted or misquoted or referenced segments from those books, I'm going to read it to you real quick right here, is when Alice meets the Cheshire Cat and she says, "Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?" And the cat says, "That depends a good deal on where you want to get to." "Well, I don't much care where," said Alice. "Then it doesn't matter where you go," said the cat. "So long as I get somewhere," Alice added as an explanation. "Oh, you're sure to do that," said the cat, "if only you walk long enough." And I love that quote because I feel like that's how we kind of go into these conversations. It's like, well, I got to do something. I got to fix something. I want to change. I don't want them to feel this. I want them to feel not this. Well, what does not this mean? We got to define this, because it is well, let's back up a little bit. So think about a GPS. If you're looking to get in the car and you want your GPS to tell you where to go, we have to plug in an address first. What do you want the end result, the end destination to be? You can't just say, "Okay, Siri, tell me where to go." She's going to say, "Punch in the coordinates and I'll tell you how to get there." So we need to define, operationalize the outcome that we want. Here's how to do it. First, who's your audience? Let's get really clear. Are you speaking specifically? Are you planning to speak in the moment to employees, to clients, to investors, to your significant other, your family? It's all relevant one way or another, personal or professional. But we need to ask ourselves, you need to ask yourself, I want to inspire confidence in this person. I want to instill confidence, but confidence in what? What confidence that what will happen or will not happen. That's really important because it will change. Again, that's a tweak in the direction. It's not just about, I don't want to go south, I want to go north-ish. Where north are you looking to get? And you have to ask yourself, actually, there's a great, a while ago, I was working with Dream It Ventures, and which is a tech startup incubator, amazing program. And the managing partner at the time, Steve Barsh, used to always say to the entrepreneurs in the program when they were doing their pitches, he'd say, less waving, more pointing, less waving, more pointing. I love that expression because it means in that context, it was people were just saying, well, I mean, it's kind of like this. And they're talking in broad generalities, which is the verbal equivalent of just waving your hands kind of in the verb, in the physical equivalent of, I mean, which quite literally implies I don't know what I'm saying. So I'm hoping you know what I mean. Not good. We need to be specific. We need to be able to articulate to ourselves. And I do literally mean articulate. We need to be able to put on paper first, if necessary, what exactly we want to have confidence in. What kind of confidence do we want to instill? So I say semi facetiously that the biggest gap in the world is the 3 inches between here and here, between your brain and your mouth. And the part of the brain that processes general concepts is different from the part of the brain that processes speech, that creates speech. So we know more or less the kind of stuff that we want to convey, the general sense that we want to convey to other people. But then when we open our mouths, the words that come out, well, let's just say they're not quite as clear, compelling, inspiring. You know what I mean, right? You've had those moments where you hear yourself talk and you immediately think, that sounded better in my head. Anybody out there with me on that one, or am I the only one? If you had that moment where you go, no, no, I know I can say this better. And then what do? We say it like 8 more times, hoping that each time will be better. It's not better than the last time around. It's just different. Why? Because we didn't think it through first. So whether you are looking for them to feel confidence in themselves, that they are valued, that they are valuable, that the department's not going anywhere, that no matter what happens, you're going to support them. If there is a reduction in force, you're going to help them find another opportunity. You're not just going to say, see ya, you got 24 hours to pack up your desk. What I don't know, I'm just brainstorming on whatever message you need to convey to them, but whatever it is, be able to articulate it for yourself. Very specifically, I want them slash I want you to feel confident that finish that sentence. You need to be able to articulate it. And when you're thinking about that outcome, okay, that's the confidence piece. Think about it in that whenever you're having a conversation with somebody, and even in this kind of situation where it's more of a monologue, maybe you're going to make a short video for all of your employees or for your investors or something that you want to put on social media for the world to know, a general message for branding or marketing or just general thought leadership, in that which case the audience will hear it later. But when you speak, you're always going to have 3 degrees of impact. 3 degrees of impact. And those 3 degrees of impact are cognitive, emotional, and behavioral. In other words, you want to have an impact on what people think, how people feel, and what they do. Think, feel, do. So let's dissect those a little bit. Again, this is part of your GPS destination that you're going to plug in right from the beginning. You have to decide this first before you go in and just start rambling. So, with regard to the first one, level one impact, think. You want people to, another word for think could be understand, know, recognize, or believe. What do you want them to know leaving this conversation that they did not know before they came in? Maybe it's a new fact. Maybe it's a changed perspective. Maybe it is clarifying or corrected information. Maybe it's just new information. Do they need to understand a reason for something? Do they need to know it's not personal? That it's just about the about a budget or about whatever other situation, but it's not personal, which of course to the person listening is total BS because if they're the one being impacted, it's totally personal. But you know what I mean, as far as if the decision to reduce this particular department is not about the reduction of your position because of who you are, because of the value you add. It's not about that. I think those are points of distinction that may be it really essential for that person to know. All right, so think. Second degree of impact is feel. When they leave here, considering how they feel on the way into that conversation, how do you want them to feel on the way out? Do you want them to feel respected? Do you want them to feel personally appreciated? Do you want them to feel supported? Do you want them to feel uh, stable? Do they want them to? You want them to feel that they are trusting that it's going to be okay. What do you want them to feel? Be able to articulate that for yourself. And then number three, the third level of impact, third degree of impact, is again the behavioral, the do. What do you want them to do when they leave? Do you want them to immediately start looking for another position? Do you want them to ask you for a letter of recommendation? Do you want them to, and again, I'm using this example of someone being laid off because this is the big fear, this is the big topic that's at in all the headlines nowadays, but it really could be anything. So I'm just using this example, but think about how whatever we're talking about here today would apply to you in your situation. You can always extrapolate all of this. So, what do you want them to do? Do you want them to say thank you for something? Do you want them to um, go in and share what they've learned from you with the rest of their team? Do you want them to spread the word? Do you want them to post something? Do you want them to not look for another job? Maybe they're concerned that their seat might be next on the chopping block. And you're like, please don't start looking for, no, we need you here. I need you here. You're not going anywhere. This ship's not going down. Please do not jump. We want you here. Tell me what we need to do to keep you. So whatever it is, what behavior do you want them to take? And here's a key. The do impact is directly contingent upon your being able to get through with the first two levels. They will not do what you want them to do if they do not think or understand what you need them to understand. And more importantly, if they do not feel what you want them to feel. If I'm not feeling it, I hear the words, yeah, I kind of understand it. In theory, I know what you're saying. So I hear the words, I understand it, but I don't care. I still don't feel respected. I still don't feel secure. I still don't feel whatever it valued. So yeah, I'm going to look for something else anyway. If they don't feel it, it doesn't matter. You will not get to level 3 if you don't get past level 1 and level 2. That is critical. So, okay, with all of that, there are, I think we've identified the GPS destination now. We've plugged in the address. We've hit calculate route. Now, how do we get there? The first thing that I want you to consider is asking yourself in this exchange, again, whether it's one to one or one to many, real time or asynchronous, etc., virtually or in person. The first question is, what qualities do you want to project? What do you want them to see in you besides, okay, she's smart, she's knowledgeable, she's an expert, he's okay, technical expertise notwithstanding. This is about your leadership. This is about inspiring confidence and trust. So ask yourself, and I would love the people who are joining me in this conversation live to to just brainstorm some words in the chat. What are some personal qualities that you want people to see in you when you're having this conversation with them? Do you want them, for example, to view you as someone who is trustworthy, someone who's relatable, someone who is empathetic, perhaps compassionate? Do you want them to feel like you have a sense of humor? Does that help to put them at ease a little bit, get them to laugh a bit? Or is it, no, there's no room here for humor. There is nothing funny about this. Don't play that game at all. Okay, totally up to you. What qualities do you want them to project? I see people putting in things like empathetic, caring, supportive. Yes, there's no wrong answer. Whatever you want to convey in that moment, okay, that's your choice. But remember, that is also part of that GPS. You need to think about, most importantly, what are those qualities? Because then you have to ask yourself, what do they sound like? What do they look like? How do you recognize those qualities when you see or hear them? Because no matter what you wrote down, all of those qualities are much like beauty in the eye of the beholder. Whether you are trying to come across as compassionate and empathetic or as strong and decisive and committed and focused, those are all subjective interpretations of objective behaviors. And in the rest of today, we're going to talk about what those objective behaviors are in order to help create those subjective interpretations, the recognition of those qualities. But again, we need to decide if I want to project empathy to this person, given their situation and their likely emotional state as a result, which most people aren't terribly good at hiding, what would compassion or support or strength look like or sound like to them relative to someone else? Because that can vary, right? I see great lists coming in here as well. Trusting or trustworthy, knowledgeable, strong, fair, competent, having emotional intelligence, committed. That's a great one. What does it mean to project commitment? To show someone that, yes, I'm committed to you. I'm committed to getting this result. I'm committed to this outcome. You could say it, but chances are if you say just use the words, well, I'm committed to this. Uh, okay. Most people, when you use a subjective qualifier like that about yourself, I'm committed, I'm caring, I'm supportive, I'm trustworthy, most people's instinctive internal reaction, they won't verbalize it, but what they're most likely thinking is, I'll be the judge of that, right? So how can you help them to see and hear those qualities in you? How do you get them to draw those conclusions for yourself? They have to do that because they will not believe you if you just claim it, but they don't get it from you. If they're not feeling it in their gut, then you didn't achieve that and you've already lost all three levels of impact. You're going down the wrong path. Your GPS is absolutely off. So, okay, when we think about those qualities, it is important to recognize that rule number one, first and foremost, if our goal today, our big picture umbrella theme is instilling or inspiring confidence in others, The simple fact is that they will absolutely not feel confident in anything you say if you don't project confidence first. You have to show them that you are confident in what you say. That will help them believe that you're standing by it. Now, everybody's out there has heard expressions like, well, it's not what you say, it's how you say it that matters, right? Bull. I will say that again in case anybody missed it or in case somebody thought I was mincing words. Bull. It is not just how you say it rather than what you say that matters. It is absolutely the integration of both. What you say and how you say it are two parts, are two sides of the same coin. Because if you have great words, but the delivery stinks and you screw up the how you say it part, well, it's kind of like coating a pearl in mud. There's good stuff in there, but nobody can find it. And on the flip side, if your words are a mess, they're undiplomatic, they're kind of babbly, they're just vague, they're uninspiring one way or another, then it doesn't matter how gung ho you sound or how much charisma is in your voice as you're saying it. They're going, what are you talking about? It's like putting lipstick on a pig. It's at best somebody might momentarily be entertained by the show, but that wears off really quickly. And frankly, it's annoys the pig. So ultimately serves no real purpose. It is the integration of the message. It is the what you say, the words that you say, and the delivery, your voice and your body language that have to deliver that message. And when those things work together, they are integrated, then you are whole. The word to integrate, I'm going to geek out on you one more second here. The word integrate actually has the same root as the word integrity, which derives from the same place as the word integer. For all you math people, what is an integer? An integer is a whole number. No fractions, no decimals. You're making something whole. You are integrating. Your message has integrity. Not just about the moral aspect of integrity, but you seem complete in what you're saying. And when that happens, this is where you start to project that confidence because it seems like you mean what you say. And when you're able to do that, others will get on board and follow. So let's break it down a little bit and let's look at what it is about how to make sure that there is full integration of your words and your meaning and your delivery so that people don't just hear your words, they get it because they get you. And that helps you to convey the qualities that you want and inspire that confidence because you're exuding it first. All right, let's start with the what, right? The what you say. We'll start with the content of your message. First and foremost, I think in these challenging times, empathy almost goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. You have to be empathetic to someone's situation. Whatever it is, economically, family wise, did they just move here and now they're being let go? I don't know. But consider their perspective. What are their concerns? Do you know actively what their biggest concern is? If so, address it. And if not, here's the thought, ask. Let them talk first. Let them get stuff off their chest. When in doubt, most people, and where there's conflict in the world is often because people um, who are unable to hear and to listen is because they don't feel like they have been heard and listened to yet. So sometimes the way to take the anxiety level down is just to let the other person talk first and to listen. That can be the best demonstration of empathy. But also, of course, using words of empathy, sharing that you understand, sharing words of compassion. In addition, I think it's really important that we're careful to be clear and decisive in what you both can say. I'm sure certain compliance departments and whatever else, you're only allowed to say certain things. You can only voice certain opinions, or at least that you don't want to say certain things, and that's fine. But whatever you can and want to say, be decisive. We really want to make sure that we are avoiding rambling. because rambling sounds like scrambling. When you're just going in long run-on sentences and one thought kind of leads to another and you just keep talking and babbling and it doesn't seem like you really know where you're going. It's just a stream of consciousness and your car's on autopilot and regardless, there's no GPS. It stopped trying to recalculate the route a million years ago. That does not sound confident. We need to make declarative, discreet, and deliberate statements with a clear start and end. Just like if you were writing a paragraph to somebody, that paragraph in an email or anything else should not be one giant run on sentence, right? We don't want to just blather. There should be sentence number one, sentence number two, sentence number three. Make your point, put a period, stick the landing, as the gymnasts say, then start walking again. Make your points one at a time. It sounds organized. It sounds intentional. It sounds like you are committed to your own words. Own it. Don't ramble. Similarly, don't hem and haw. If you need to think about how to answer a hard question or how to share a particular piece of information, pause. And I realize this is utterly counterintuitive in the stereotypical American business culture, but silence is okay. It is useful. It is valuable. Someone asks you a question and you need to weigh your words carefully or really think about, okay, what is the answer to that? Instead of jumping right in for the sake of filling any quote unquote awkward silence, you create awkward babbling. Well, I mean, let me think. Like it's kind of like, well, I mean, you know, all of which is no, you don't know. Whereas if someone asks you that same question and you hear it and you pause, whether you look at them, whether you take a few notes on a notepad next to you, look up into the ceiling for a second, maybe nod your head, or even say, "That's a great question. Let me think about that for a moment." And then do it. They will give you the time to answer it so that when you then come back with your response, it's something you own. Might be long, might be short, might be partial, but it will be deliberate and it will be intentional. And again, you will sound like you believe what you say. Then stop talking. The other thing we want to make sure that we're doing is being honest and transparent when you don't know something and or when frankly you can't say it. They might not like knowing there's something that you're not allowed to say, but you're being honest with them. Transparency is part of empathy, saying, I'm being honest with you. I wish I could give you different answers. I wish I had more information to share. I wish I could tell you what the mucky mucks up there are all talking about. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the information. What I can share with you is this. What I want you to know is this. What's important in the moment is this. It's okay to say when you don't know or are otherwise unable to share something. Be clear, and the respect that you'll show someone, frankly, is the fact that you're being open and honest with them. Again, and as you are hopefully noticing in everything that I'm demonstrating as I'm sharing these ideas with you today, after each point, put a period. End the sentence. Then start talking again. So the other thing is that when in doubt, where possible, balance the discussion of the unpleasant stuff with some good news. Where is their hope? Where is there something they should not be worried about? Where can you encourage someone? The word encourage is from French. Courage or courage is from heart. Cor. I don't speak French, so if I just butchered the pronunciation, forgive me for that. But the cœur in courage is the French for heart. So when you have that core, that heart, you're giving someone heart. Courage is having heart, Encourage is instilling the heart, giving someone else that heart. Where can you give heart to someone? So, is it a matter of there's commitment for the next 6 months, there's no more layoffs, or that we're going to be bringing people back, or that there's absolutely this department is solid. We appreciate you. You're not going anywhere. I want you here. I need you on my team. What can you let them know? What can you share that will help them feel more settled in something? Or is it just a matter of we have partners, we are working with other recruiters and headhunters and whoever else, and we have a package. We're going to help you redo your resume. We're going to write you fabulous letters of recommendation. We are going to do this, that, and the other thing. We're going to, here's the severance package. Here's the support that we're going to give you. Heck, they may even feel like they're better off not working there than working there. Whatever it is, the make sure that you're adding something positive. And when possible, start with something positive first. Start with the positive. Then you can share whatever is the challenges and then reiterate the positive again at the end. I know it's cliche to do that, but the fact is, it's not just being cliche because you're covering. It's a commonly referenced pattern because it matters. And it does have the result that you want it to have. So don't downplay that just because it sounds like, oh, everybody says that and it's just nonsense. It's not nonsense. It's effective. Okay, so we've talked quite a bit about about what to say. Now let's look at the how you say it. Let's look at the voice. First and foremost, go slow. When entering into these conversations that are difficult, these crucial conversations, as many people will refer to it, these uncomfortable conflict oriented situations. The first thing that happens, as we all know, and if anybody out there does or doesn't relate to this, please let me know, adrenaline kicks in. Just knowing that this conversation is impending the day or two in advance, if not an hour or two in advance, or certainly the couple minutes leading into it, the adrenaline kicks in, the heart rate kicks in. And as soon as you start feeling that adrenaline, everything races, and that includes your tongue. So be sure that you are talking as slowly and calmly and stably as you can. It may sound oddly slow to you, like you're trying to talk someone down off the ledge, but because your adrenaline is already kicking in, you don't realize that you actually are speaking much faster than you realize. It's like driving under the influence. You don't realize how fast you're driving. You're speaking under the influence. You don't realize how fast you're talking. So make sure, drop yourself a note, pace, slow down. The next, vocally speaking, tonality matters. Avoid upspeak. Any of you who've heard me talk about anything else know upspeak or uptalk, otherwise known more technically as high-rise terminal, is something that drives me absolutely bonkers. And upspeak is that pattern that sounds like I'm asking questions at the ends of all my phrases and sentences, even when I'm not. And by the way, for all the guys out there, I have some bad news for you. A Y chromosome is not a vaccine against upspeak. It's not a chick thing. It's not a millennial thing. It's not, nope. Hate to tell you this. There's a million reasons why you may not recognize it when it happens from other guys or not recognize it in yourselves, but men and women tend to do it far more than they would gain value. Let's put it that way. So with that, upspeak, regardless of whether it's something that an in-group likes to do together, that's not the point. In these contexts, upspeak projects uncertainty, which is the antithesis of confidence. Because when I'm talking like this and all my phrases and sentences and in that rising tone, that mirrors the English structure and frankly other languages as well, what's known as a tag question. The tag question is when you make a statement and then at the end you go, right? Okay? Know what I mean? And so if I'm saying those things to you or I'm inflecting them, then it sounds like I don't really know because I have to say, right? Okay? You know what I mean? Well, why are you asking me? You're the one making the statement and you're letting me know about these horrible things that are happening to our department or whatever it is. So we need to make sure that we are making declarative sentences, that our voice drops at the ends. It's not to sound blunt. Everything is this. Here's what we're doing. You need to deal with it. I don't care. That's not my point. Variation matters. If you go back and you listen to everything that I've been saying here, sometimes things go up and sometimes they go down, but there's a place and a time. And I'm not implying a tag question when it's not necessary. If you're trying to inspire confidence, it has to sound like you mean what you say. It has to be declarative in tone. Um, And by the way, going back to that run-on sentence piece that we talked about before, run-on sentences are one of the greatest catalysts for upspeak because it just sounds like it's more and more. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. It's I'm not sure about this. Gee, is there more? I don't really know. And I'm rambling and I'm not totally sure. Again, you're projecting uncertainty. So if you can cut down on the run-on sentences, it'll automatically help to stave off upspeak. So you get a 2-for-1 bonus there. And yeah, there can be certainly people can infer that tone as being ironic or indifferent, or there's lots of negative ways to make it sound, but it's rarely positive. The other thing you want to avoid vocally is vocal fry. And vocal fry is that really it's about lack of breath support. Everything's just sort of bottoming out, but where it's creaky and gravelly. And maybe you start out okay, but then you tend to trail off at the end of your sentences. And frankly, if you do run on sentences, then once again, you're more likely to trail off and head into that vocal fry because you're not allowing yourself to refuel the tank. You're not allowing yourself to stop and breathe. You're just trying to keep going and squeeze blood out of a stone. And usually that's because you're anxious and your body's tensing up and you're not allowing yourself to breathe and make another statement. So avoid that vocal fry. Make sure that you're using your full resonant voice. You're allowing yourself to breathe at whatever pause is necessary. Because again, that sounds confident. If I'm using vocal fry, it kind of sounds like I'm either indifferent, like, yeah, whatever, don't really care about what happens to this group. Or it sounds hesitant, like my body's going, oh, I know I have to say this to you, but I really don't want to. There's an anxiety or an anxiousness to it, that hesitation, that, oh, reluctance. I don't want to say this, but I have to. Allow the full voice to come out. It helps you sound confident. That instills and inspires confidence on others. All right, last point. We've talked about what to say. We've talked about how to say it vocally. Let's talk about how to say it visually, physically, your body language. When in doubt, this is an awful lot of stuff that I feel like should go without saying, but in today's world, I'm darn gonna say all of it. If possible, have these conversations in person. Do not avoid. Do not hide behind email or Slack, God forbid, text messages and whatever other, texting, WhatsApp, Discord, whatever channels you've got. Have the conversation in person. That's respecting the audience. That's having the integrity. That's having the chutzpah to just get up and say, you deserve to be face to face with me on this. I'm not hiding from you. I'm not taking the easy way out and cheating. If it can't be done in person and it's going to be virtually like this, cameras on. Did I mince my words? Was I unclear about that? Allow me to reiterate it. Cameras on. People need to see your face. If you're hiding behind a screen, you're hiding behind a PowerPoint slide, God help you. You're hiding behind just a black square with your name in front of it. All that conveys is, I don't want you to see me. I'm embarrassed. I'm bashful. I don't have confidence in myself. I don't believe what I'm saying. I'm afraid you're going to be mad at me. All that kind of stuff. Horrible. Turn your camera on. Make eye contact. Do not hedge. You're not teenagers. We are not teenagers trying to break up with somebody who we are hoping we're not going to see in the hallway on the way to algebra class going, yeah, my cat's sick, so I can't, yeah, sorry. No, face to face, have that kind of integrity, both from the ethical side and from the whole completion, integer, integration aspect of communicating. They deserve to see your face. If you can't even look at them in the face when you're giving them this information, well, the rest kind of doesn't matter because you're already dead in the water on that one. Cameras on. Now, let's talk about a couple little details with regard to that. Number one, the the angle of your camera is going to matter. If you're looking to project confidence and thinking about some of those other qualities that you mentioned earlier, to project confidence, you have to own the screen. Little things like I'm going to demonstrate on the video here. Hopefully everybody else can uh, tune into the replay later if you're listening to the podcast version of this. But if you're way down here where your head is on the bottom of the screen and your chin is kind of touching the bottom and the top of your head somewhere around the middle of the screen, and then the top half of the screen is all ceiling and sky, you look like you're trying to slide under the desk, like you're trying to hide from someone. You look small, you look weak, you look timid. This does not say confident. This does not say leader. This does not say trust me. Since I don't even trust myself, I certainly don't trust you. So you got to make sure that you're not just also shifting into the Alice of the Brady Bunch, kind of the middle ninth. So here's the middle third, and here's the middle third horizontally versus vertically. You're not just that your head's in the middle ninth. Tip your camera, adjust accordingly so that your head is way up to the top of the screen. I'm going to adjust it a little bit more here. You want to have just a tiny little bit of space between the top of your head and the top of your screen. Here, you own the screen. You're giving people more body language, your posture, your shoulders, a little bit of hand gestures. People are reading more of you, and that helps people feel like they truly trust you because they're getting three-dimensional messaging. They're not just hearing words, they're seeing more of you. Do not just feel like, well, I'm not supposed to gesture when I'm on. No, they want to see you. Think about it. When you can't see the other person at all, or you barely see them, you feel like you can't read them well, right? So when you have the opportunity to communicate with someone else, give them the gift of allowing them to be able to read you. And that includes seeing more of your torso, your shoulders, some of your hands, so they can see your movement. Then, of course, the question, look, if the person on the other end receiving needs to turn their camera off, yes, by all means, let them. It's not about you. Don't worry about that. They need to turn it off, grab a tissue, do whatever. Be empathetic to them. Address that. Give them permission explicitly. Go ahead, Susan. Go ahead, Jack. No problem if you want to turn that off. I appreciate that, and I'm here for you. Anything you want to share, if you want to turn back on, fine. But otherwise, you leave your camera on. Now, once the camera is on and the video is angled in the right direction, so you are owning the screen, then here's a thought: don't fidget. Again, you're looking to project stability, confidence, trust. If you're someone who's, fidgeting the entire time and, hand on your face, kind of, you keep clicking your pen or picking at your fingernails or otherwise, swiveling in your chair because you're not so sure, or, you keep sort of looking around everywhere but at the screen, or if you are fidgeting, however that manifests, that projects anxiety. If you seem anxious, that is what they will receive, and that is absolutely what they will feel. So you want to make sure that you get comfortable with that. And there's so much more to the on-camera presence. So what I will refer everyone to is, if you are really looking to get better, not just for these kinds of conversations, but for every exchange, interaction, opportunity that's on camera, check out my online course, which is called Virtual Influence. And you can find that at virtualinfluence.today, not .com, .today, virtualinfluence.today. If you scroll to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see the table of contents, and you'll see all the modules, all the videos that are there. So much is about how to connect with your audience, how to project what you want to project, how to engage people, how to keep people from multitasking, all that kind of fun stuff. So, but at least, if nothing else, the table of contents will give you food for thought. Like, oh yeah, I never thought about it. I got to do this, and I should think about that, and I probably could do this better. Whether or not you get the course doesn't matter, but check out the table of contents and then go from there. Lastly, okay, we've talked about the verbal. We've talked about the vocal. We've talked about the visual. How do we drive it home? One word: practice. Because the biggest gap in the world is the 3 inches, as I mentioned before, between your brain and your mouth. You can mean to do all these things. You can tell yourself, okay, I'm not going to ramble. I'm going to use shorter sentences. I'm going to avoid jargon and ambiguous, hedgy kind of language. I'm going to use empathetic terms. I'm going to remember to smile when I'm being gentle and loving with somebody. I'm going to try to do this and that. And then you open your mouth, and what happens? So now you're not going to have time to run through your entire conversation, most likely. So here's a tip. It's what I like to call the 60 to 60 rule. And that's in the book as well, Speaking to Influence. And you can check that out at speakingtoinfluence.com or Amazon, etc. But the 60 to 60 rule states that the impression that you make in the first 60 seconds sets the audience's expectation for the experience that they're about to have with you over the next 60 minutes. Shorthanded, what that means is that if you just practice the first minute or so, you'll set the tone better. You will be better at identifying what you're doing effectively and not. You watch yourself in that first minute, kind of opening the conversation with somebody, and then you watch yourself on that video and you go, "Oh my God, that was a rambly mess." Or, "What's I doing with my face? Why was I looking up at the ceiling the entire time like there was going to be a script there?" Or, "Oh my gosh, I just spoke a million miles a minute." Or, "I forgot to say hi." A million different things, right? As you're looking at your phone and watching that video. So trust me, the fastest way to get better is to record that first minute. Do it a couple times till you feel like, okay, I'm setting the right tone now. I'm getting off on the right foot. We're moving in the right direction. I can ride that wave now for the rest of the conversation. So practice, do the 60 to 60 rule. And again, remember two things: listen. Don't just work on how you talk. Make sure to listen when someone is not when they need to express themselves as well, and start and end with gratitude, regardless of what their current situation is. Are they being let go or not? Are they concerned about something or otherwise? Start with gratitude and end with gratitude and commitment. What are you committing to with them? You may have said it throughout. Finish with it again. Gratitude and commitment. Grateful to them for X and committing to them that Y. This is how we will demonstrate and inspire confidence in others in these uncertain times. So we've got just a couple minutes left, and I want to take a look through the chat here and see what kind of other questions people have. If you do have a specific question, feel free to put it back in the chat now. Let's see. Yes, let that person talk. Empathy and compassion is important. Yes, getting those kinds of things reiterated here. Um, Again, for those who are listening in, the virtual influence course is virtualinfluence.today is the online page. And the book is at speakingtoinfluence.com if you want to check that out as well. Those 60 seconds are super critical. Those first 60 seconds, they set the tone. If you seem like you're a hot mess, that's what people are going to brace themselves for. More hot mess. And if anybody else has questions, please feel free to share now. Happy to listen, read. So, and what I would otherwise ask if there aren't questions is please share in the chat. What's one of your big takeaways from today? Maybe it was something you'd never thought about before. Maybe it was just a really good reminder. Oh, right. Got to do this. So was it about the sound of your voice? Was it about how to start? Was it about the uh, challenging field of the virtual space versus being in person? Was it about the 3 degrees of impact? Remember what they were? Think, feel, do. Cognitive, emotional, behavioral. Less waving, more pointing. Be able to articulate for yourself what the key is. What is the outcome you desire? Great. And of course, yes, we will be sharing the replay with you. We will also have this available on the podcast. If you don't normally, or if you've never heard it before, do please check out our Speaking to Influence podcast. Usually we are doing interviews with leaders who are sharing the role of communication as an essential leadership skill. And today we're doing something a little bit different, focusing specifically on this skill set of inspiring and instilling confidence in uncertain times. And yes, slowing down, speaking when you know you'll feel worried about something. Great suggestions. 3 degrees of impact. Yes, 60 to 60 rule. Somebody else that is a takeaway. Wonderful. All right. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time out to join me today. Do reach out to me on LinkedIn with any comments, any questions, any feedback, any topics you'd like to see on future live events, whether it's LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, or podcast conversations. I'm always here for you. I look forward to hearing from you. And of course, if you're able to utilize this, I take that back. When you utilize what you learned today, let us know. Drop us a line, drop us a message on LinkedIn and tell us, what did you utilize and what happened? How did it go? How did it change the outcome and help you get the results that you want? So with that, thank you all for joining me today. I'm Dr. Laura Sicola with Vocal Impact Productions. Here's to your success. Have a great day.